Hi, my name is Kenny. I'm a software developer with 15 years of experience, and I'm also the creator of the Atomic Agents framework, of which you can find the link in the description below. Whether you are just checking out your options, or you're like me and you got really tired of frameworks like LangChain, AutoGen and CrewAI, and you are looking for an alternative, this Quickstart tutorial should help you get up and running. Alright, so here we are in a brand new project. The first thing we will want to do, of course, is initialize it. Personally, I will be using Poetry, so if you want to follow along, then that's what I suggest you do as well. And now that we have initialized our project, of course, you'll want to install our dependencies. We will be installing Atomic Agents, but we also need a client to use with Atomic Agents. In this case, we will be using OpenAI, but you can use any client that you like that's supported by Instructor. So for that, go check out Instructor, link in the description. And we will also be installing some other dependencies like Rich to display our output in a nice way. Alright, great, and with our dependencies installed, first thing we will need to do is set up our API key for OpenAI. But if you're following along with Grok or Mistral, then follow whatever instructions you need to follow for Mistral or Grok. And with our .env file set up, let's write a quick main.py to test our setup. Let's give it a spin. Okay, great. As you can see, it's responding to our chat message here. So let's maybe debug it and have a look under the hood, see what's happening. One thing we could have a look at is what the default system prompt is going to be of the agent. And here you can see this is the default system prompt. So this is formatted in Markdown, inspired by the way that Fabric does it by Daniel Miesler. Also a project that I highly recommend checking out if you want some handy command line tools that use AI. So here you can see this is a conversation with a helpful and friendly AI assistant. It has some output instructions such as always respond using the proper JSON schema, and always use the available additional information and context to enhance the response. In this case, we don't really have any additional information and context, but I figured that it never really hurt to have this in here. Another thing we could have a look at is the memory. The memory is an object, and it has a history. And currently in the history, there is just the user message and the assistant's message. So in this case, the system prompt is not part of this specific history object. This is because the system prompt will get prepended to the agent in the run method. And so the full data that is sent to the agent is a system prompt plus the history or the memory, and that all is used to generate the output. Now, one of the things that I got asked a lot for production type applications is to increase traceability and observability. So one of the things you can leverage for that is a turn ID. So every time the user asks something and it is processed through the run method of the agent, a new turn ID is generated. And essentially the turn ID is the ID that will be used throughout until the assistant generates its final response. So in this case, we will just have a turn ID for user message and the following assistant message, which has the same turn ID here. But in more complex use cases where you have a user message and the assistant maybe needs to do a call to a web API and it needs to interpret that response and it needs to do some internal thinking, and then after a while it generates a final response, then it's possible that you have a user message followed with maybe 3 assistant messages of which only the final one is the actual final one. And so all of those messages will have the same turn ID. Alright, so now that we have verified that everything works, let's create a quick and dirty chat loop here. Alright, through the magic of editing, we now have a basic chat loop. What I've changed here is we import the rich console and text. We initialize the console. I've also organized and added some comments. So yeah, important. Very often you will want an initial message for your assistant. So the way to do that with Atomic Agents is you can define your initial message and you can manually push it to the memory. And how you do that is you just do agent.memory.addMessage with the role here, which can be either assistant, user, or system. And the content is the base agent output schema. So whatever the agent will output, that is what you will generally want to have as content here. And in this case it is a chat message with the initial message passed into it. And then we also print that. Then we have a simple loop while true. We just get the user's input, we put that in the base agent input schema, and we get the assistant's response. And notice we don't push anything else to the memory manually, since the run method will take care of that already. And here we have a little example conversation. So I asked for a dolphin fact, it gave me a dolphin fact. I asked for another, demonstrating that it has of course knowledge of the history. And so now maybe another customization we maybe want to do is we may want to have a custom system prompt. So let's say we want to make an agent that can only answer facts about squirrels. Let's see how we can do that. Alright, that should be it. We have imported the system prompt generator. We have defined a custom system prompt generator with a custom background, custom steps, and output instructions. The way to think of output instructions versus the background and steps is output instructions is generally going to be what should the output be formatted like, what should it look like, in what form should it take. Again, this is heavily inspired by the way it is done in the Fabric library, and has proven highly effective so far, so I stick with that. But of course, you are free to leave out any of these. All of them are optional. And then we pass it in as a property to the base agent config, which, as you can see, you can have your own memory, your system prompt generator, and a custom input and output schema, which is not important just yet, but we will have a look at that later. And now if we run this, and we ask for a fact about dolphins, then you can see that it cannot provide me with a dolphin fact, and as per its output instructions, it has presented its answer in the form of a rhyme. We then ask it again for a squirrel fact. Then we now get a squirrel fact, but again in the form of a rhyme. And that is how you can modify the system prompt. And the last thing I want to have a look at in this video is what I mentioned, is that you can also modify the input and output schema. Let's assume we want to not just have a chat response from the agent, but we also want a set of possible follow-up questions that we could ask. Let's see how we can implement that. Alright, so now we have our custom output schema, which always has to extend from the base IO schema, and it always needs a docstring. The reason why it always needs a docstring is because this docstring will actually end up in the system prompt, and also these field descriptions will end up in the system prompt to help guide the agent toward the output that you want. And you may notice that this uses Pydantic fields, which we haven't explicitly installed Pydantic as a dependency, but Pydantic is a dependency of instructor. However, if it is missing, you can just pip install it or add it with poetry. Now that we have our custom output schema, we can also add it to the config. And we may want to modify our initial message here. So let's maybe make this into the schema, the initial message. We will also want to modify our printing to include the follow-up questions. Alright, and this should work now. Right, we want to print the chat message here. And let's ask about the average lifespan of a squirrel. And we get an answer, again in rhyme, and we get some new follow-up questions. Right, so that's about it. That's about the main stuff you're gonna want to customize about atomic agents. This should get you up and running, at least the basics. You can also, of course, modify the input schema. You can make the output schema match a tool. But as far as the Quickstart guide goes, this should get you covered. So be sure to check out the project on GitHub. Be sure to check out the other examples, which you will be seeing some of them on the screen right here. And you will find the links in the description below. And that's it for this tutorial. Please consider liking and subscribing to stay updated whenever I upload a new video. And yeah, see you in the next one.